You're listening to the Joe Mays J-Raff Show, giving you weekly sports analysis, opinions, and discussion. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and J-Raff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 186th episode of the Joe Mays J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, alongside of me, co-host J-Raff.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Sorry, I coughed during the intro.
Yeah, it's already off the rails here. I don't know, really. I think we might just have to cut this one short here. But no, we're talking football, which is just incredible. And I know technically we've been talking football since last February, I guess.
Yeah.
No, we started our previews in June, so that is the point where we've kind of been focusing on for the couple of months. But the NFL, it's finally here, and we actually have game action going on. We had a game Thursday night. We have a bunch of afternoon games that have finished, and we have some evening games going on now. We've got Sunday night football tonight, and tomorrow we have two games to kick off Monday night football. So if you're watching us on Ustream, it seems that we're having an issue. So if you're listening to this on Ustream,
your favorite technical issue,
please go to jmnjrradio.com and you can listen to the show there. It should start automatically. If it does not start automatically, you should go and just click the play button on the little embedded player there. Again, that's on jmnjrradio.com. You can see the mixer player where you can get the live audio, which will not be interrupted by whatever issues we're having with the Ustream recorder here. The video of the show will obviously be up once we're done here for sure, but the live stream, appears to be jumping in and out. But again, live audio on jmnjrradio.com. But yeah, so NFL Week 1, bunch of games happening. And we'd love to talk with anyone willing to interact with us during the show. So you should definitely do that. There's a bunch of ways you can do that, and Justin has that information for you.
Yeah, we'd love to have your take on any of the games that you've seen. Definitely some surprises to some people. Definitely for me, I think. So I'm excited to get to actually talk football. Like you said, we've been talking about football for a while, but now we're actually talking football games, which is a whole different idea. So I'm excited. We'd love to have your take on any of the games that happened, are happening, or the games yet to come tonight and tomorrow. I know we definitely have some fans of teams that are playing tonight and tomorrow, so we'd love to have your take on that. So call the Mays Sandwich Shop hotline at 530-563-6297. Again, 530-563-6297. You can also email the Mays Sandwich Shop email inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. Again, joemaysandjraff@gmail.com.
We also have a wide range of social media presence, primarily Facebook and Twitter. That's where we do most of our interaction right there. But we have a bunch of websites that you can also visit. jmnjr.com or joemaysandjraff.com will get you to our website. And then the one that I had just mentioned, jmnjrradio.com, is the home for all the shows we do, which we just started a few weeks ago, the Bulldog Hour. And actually, Justin and I will be recording episode 2 next week. So there won't be a Joe Mays and J-Raff show next Sunday. We'll be back in 2 weeks on September 27th. But September 20th, Justin and I will be recording episode 2 of the Bulldog Hour. But here we are tonight. We're talking professional football, and we're going to pick up in the with the Week 1 actions. And I guess we should start where the NFL started, and that was Thursday night with the kickoff game. Every year, the defending Super Bowl champions host usually a pretty big matchup. It's usually a pretty good game. This year was no exception. They hosted the Steelers, who were a division winner last year in the playoffs, expected to be pretty strong this year. And the game, while it looked like it was going to be a runaway at first, the Steelers fought back and made it interesting. And, of course, what would a game with New England be without some kind of fiasco or
right,
some kind of issues in terms of game integrity?
It's just the Patriots being the Patriots. And, look, I'm not saying they had anything to do with it. It's just another one of those things that happens a lot at the Patriots or against the Patriots, and it's just, read into that what you will. Patriots fans will, sweep it under the rug like they do everything else, and everyone else will look at it as something that's a major issue, or at least just another minor issue along the road. The headset issues happen all over the place all the time, but it's just interesting that every team seems to have an issue when they go to New England. It's pretty interesting. So anyway, we'll just kind of let that go. They can kind of sort that out. The NFL, I'm sure, will not sweep it under the rug. Wait, they've already done that with other stuff. But anyway, so
I was pretty livid earlier this week, as Justin can tell by my text message. There just seems to be a theme we're talking about, our text message between one another. Definitely, if we were doing the show last, Tuesday, when some of that stuff came out, this would be radically different. For those of you, for future reference, I should say, since we're not video broadcasting live, I pulled up jmnjrradio.com, where you can see the Mixler player and our broadcast schedule and links to all the other shows we've done, the kind of like an archive. But the player is the big thing right there in the middle. That has the live streaming audio that you can listen to if the video feed ever fails, which it has done to us once again. But yeah, back to the games. Patriots, they get the win, 28-21. The headset stuff.
Patriots look good, but they didn't quite come out on fire like I kind of thought they would.
Yeah, it was 0-0 after the first quarter.
For how bad the Steelers' defense looked at times,
and their
specifically the secondary. And they missed a couple field goals, and it seems like this should have been a rout for the Patriots, and it looked like it was going to be, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. And that's usually not the case with the Patriots. Usually it may look like it's not going to be a rout, and then it is. They just kind of put a team away. It was kind of the opposite here. It'll be interesting. One thing, and he was fine from it, but Brady got hit that one time. He got hit harder than I've seen him get hit in a long time on a blitz. I think they brought a cornerback or a safety, and he was able to just kind of hit Brady pretty good. So. But the Steelers' secondary is awful. Interesting point here, I don't really know what to think of it yet, but a lot was made when the Eagles traded Brandon Boykin to the Steelers, because a lot of people thought he was as sure as the slot corner for the Eagles, better than any option they had. And some people, including myself, feel like he should have been given a shot at outside, playing outside, especially last year when the Eagles had terrible guys, including, some guys that are now on the Patriots that got beat like crazy by Antonio Brown and some other guys, on Thursday night. So, you would think Brandon Boykin, with how bad the Steelers' defense was, what's up with Brandon Boykin that he didn't even get in the game for the Steelers?
Yeah, I don't know.
Night?
I mean,
how
he was traded early enough that you would think.
Somebody said maybe he didn't know the playbook.
Right.
He was traded like a month ago.
Right, that's what I mean. You would think he would have enough
to play in a basic package anywhere. Yeah. Somebody said, well, maybe because it's a conditional pick, they just don't want to play him and give up the fifth round pick. I'm like,
seems
that's
like
crazy, but
crazy thing to do.
Yeah, but you're basically saying, all right, well, we're gonna be really bad on defense and not do anything about it just so we get a fifth round pick. I think teams would. Not that was the difference in the game.
Win.
Not that Brandon Boykin is the difference maker in that game.
One score game, though. I mean,
right.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
On the other hand, if they're not going to cover Gronk at all, like they didn't do on a couple plays, it doesn't
really
matter who's in there.
I mean, they kind of hyped it up like they were going to be real physical with him, and I didn't see it at all. He scored 3 touchdowns.
And they weren't jamming him on any. On 2 of the touchdowns, they didn't jam him at all. They were playing off, and he just ran right by the guy.
The Steelers return home in week 2. They'll host the 49ers, whereas the Patriots, well, they get the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Who sent some shockwaves through the NFL today. Now, I know we picked them 3rd in the AFC East. Fine. There are some people that are pretty high on them, but I don't think many people saw them doing what they did today to the Colts.
Right. And I heard a lot of people, not a lot, I heard some people this morning on my pregame shows and stuff put the Colts on upset alert just because they say going into Buffalo is always tricky. Teams, I forget who it was 2 years ago. No, it was Aaron Rodgers last year. I think they lost week 1 at Buffalo or struggled mightily at Buffalo week 1. Like, teams go there and can struggle sometimes. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Bills had won. The game was 27-14. The Bills ended up winning. It wasn't that close.
Well, it was 24-8 at the end of the third quarter. It was 27-8 through most of the fourth quarter.
They dominated.
Yeah. And worse news for the Colts, T.Y. Hilton went out with an injury.
Oh, see, I missed that.
Yeah, knee injury.
Oh, so T.Y. Hilton's out. The Bills, I got to give it to Tyrod Taylor. Looked good.
Yeah, he did.
Well, better than any other option they have on there, which that's not necessarily saying a lot, but he looks like a quarterback that they might actually be able to do something with. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue to do that, because Rex kind of has, I say a history. When he was with the Jets, things always started out okay with quarterbacks, and then it kind of would sour from there. So I'll be interested to see what they can continue to do with quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do in Buffalo, but the defense looks scary good.
Yeah, they did.
And so if they can stay healthy, going to Buffalo is never an easy thing. And if they have they had a solid defense before. You had Rex Ryan, who, even you will admit, defensively specifically, he has positive effects on teams generally. And the Bills Patriots matchup next week all of a sudden is pretty interesting.
And if they get them in Buffalo,
right.
Which I know.
People had winter coats on today.
This was a long time ago. This was way back in the fall of 2003. Buffalo opened the season against the Patriots with a 31-0 win, and things were looking up for the Bills back then. If you know the history of the Bills, though, they have not made the playoffs since 1999, when Doug Flutie was the quarterback and Thurman Thomas was still on the roster. The Bills in 2003 finished that season in New England with a loss, 31-0. It was kind of an interesting bookend thing there, but obviously they didn't make the playoffs that season. They haven't made the playoffs since. Technically, they have not been in the playoffs in this millennium. If you go by the season, obviously they were playing in January 2000, being in the 99-2000 playoffs, but regular season, they have not seen the playoffs since 1999. It's 2015, in case you guys weren't aware of that. So it's been a long time since Buffalo made the playoffs. Beating the Colts like they did, and if they beat the Patriots next week, I know they're both at home,
right?
But still, that's a statement.
Oh my gosh!
Colts and Patriots
beat the two
by
favorites,
most teams, favorites to win the AFC.
Right, you beat the two favorites to win the AFC. So now the Patriots will have to play again a second time, but the Colts they
have the tiebreaker.
Have a tiebreaker with them. So even if you end up in some kind of contention there,
you got it. You took care of business.
A lot of teams, you're not gonna make the playoffs with your wins in September, but you can
position
be out
yourself.
of it. I think the Colts will be fine, even with the T.Y. Hilton injury there. I think they'll be okay, especially what we saw from some teams that we thought might contend in that division. But anyway, that Bills-Patriots game looks to be a good one, a big one early on in week 2 next week.
Yeah, let's stay in the AFC East and go to the team that we had as the bottom of the AFC East, and that was the Jets. And even with this performance today, I don't really think...
I was going to say, they may not be as it's
bad
1 week.
As
they may not be as awful as we thought, as in one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Right, yeah. I mean,
however,
a winning 31-10 is always good, but again, it was the Browns, which I don't think any of us expected much from this season. Both teams looked kind of like the historical significance. The Browns being the Browns,
back and forth.
The Jets
we mentioned
being the
how
Jets.
we don't always say what we're saying in our text on the air, but we would text each other like, Jets being the Jets. Nope, outdone by Browns being the Browns.
Well, the best one was the one that we texted immediately, was Nick Mangold, the Jets center, snapped the ball before Fitzpatrick, the Jets quarterback, was ready. He went over his shoulder. He ran back almost to the goal line to get it with all these Browns charging. Like three Browns against Fitzpatrick, the quarterback, and who ends up with the ball?
Fitzpatrick is getting thrown around, and the guy throws him into the ball.
He literally picked the ball up while he was on his helmet, like perpendicular to the ground, head in the ground, grabbed the ball in front of 3 Browns.
The Jets making a very Jets play, only to be outdone by the Browns making a very Browns play.
Yes. So, but the Jets dominated in the second half. They scored 17 points to win 31-10.
Johnny Manziel came in for not Brian Hoyer. That's like you cross another one off the list.
McCown.
Right. For McCown came in, tried to rush into the end zone, got helicoptered, lost the ball. So the Jets recovered. And then Manziel comes in, struggles a little bit, then leads them down and throws a nice
really
pass.
nice touchdown
Like
pass.
leads them down, scores a touchdown, and then the wheels fell off and
then he
just
was
couldn't
awful.
hold on to the ball. Just started
Threw
dropping
an
it over and over
interception,
again.
Had at least 2 fumbles. So,
yeah,
not a great day for the Browns, but I guess if you lose that bad to the Jets, who we think are going to be bad, it's not a good sign.
I think the Browns
again.
haven't won on opening day since 2004 when Jeff Garcia was the starting quarterback.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Not the rub the dirt in there.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's continue with the AFC teams, and then we'll jump over into the less important conference in the NFC. I think one of the
by less important you mean superior, but that's fine.
One of the teams that was surprising, at least until near the end of the game when the other team was fighting back, were the Chiefs, who were on the road in Houston today. And
I wasn't surprised.
We got to see our first missed extra point on the new rule.
Yeah.
The extra points are now 33-yard field goals,
and
essentially.
Bill O'Brien was not amused.
Oh, he didn't even know it had happened. People just say, your kicker just missed the extra point, by the way. BT dubs, Bullock, no, wide right. So, but the Chiefs put up 27, didn't score at all in the second half.
No touchdowns by wide receivers, though.
Right. Alex Smith,
just to play
3 touchdown passes, not a single one to a wide receiver. 2 to Travis Kelce, 1 to Jamal Charles.
Did Travis Kelce come back?
He did come back.
Okay.
He left on his 3rd reception. His first 2 catches, I believe, were for touchdowns.
Right.
Like he had 50 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And then on his 3rd catch, he got rocked.
Right. Hung on and then ran for another 10 yards, but then
he
was
come
writhing
back
in pain.
because he ended up with almost 100 yards receiving.
Okay.
So he did return. He's okay. The Texans, very good defensive line. J.J. Watt all over the field, being a crazy man, but their secondary being beat repeatedly. The offense not getting in much push at all.
Right.
And they already changed their quarterback. Brian Hoyer was announced as a starter. They brought Ryan Mallett in. I know that because Ryan Mallett threw a touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins.
I'm glad to see Ryan Mallett didn't oversleep and miss the game today. But it's one of those things where the Texans did score 11 points in the fourth quarter to draw within 7. But like you said, Chiefs jumped out on them early. It's one of those things where J.J. Watt is, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the league. It's unbelievable. However, he
can't do it all.
It goes to show, he's a defensive lineman. If you're an outside linebacker or something, sometimes you'll be in pass coverage. Sometimes you'll be. He's going after the quarterback and stopping the run, and he's really good at it. But, he can't cover guys downfield. That's not his job. I don't want to make it sound like he can't do it. He probably could. But
if they let him, they put him in on onside kick.
Right. Yeah, and then the guy just screwed up the onside kick and kicked it right to him.
No good at all.
I saw a couple of really bad onside kicks today. Anyway,
but it is nice that they're being attempted because that means the games are close.
2-point conversions. 2-point conversions too is kind of cool. But Texans did fight back, but I think they're gonna. This is what we saw. The defense was a little stunned early on, kind of got in the groove later. But I think Kansas City is going to be really good. I think they're going to push for a playoff spot, and I didn't pick them to get one though.
No.
But I think they're going to be really good. Their defense is really, really good, and I think Alex Smith is going to be good enough with Andy Reid. It's all going to be health there, like for every team, but they are notorious for having tons of injuries. It was good to see Eric Berry back, and contributing there, but it's hard to really say what the Texans have on offense. I know some people are big on Arian Foster when he returns. I don't really know that it's going to matter. He may put up some stats, but I don't know that it's going to matter for the Texans.
Yeah, you could be right. It might not make any difference whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there in Houston. I don't want to say there were high hopes because I don't think anyone was really picking them to challenge the Colts to win the division.
Because the Colts are in there, right.
But I think they expect them to be competitive and push for a wild card. And
right.
if they only win 6 or 7 games, is O'Brien in trouble? Or do they give him another year because of quarterback
I think it'll
issues?
depend because it'll depend on what they did because they haven't really given him a quarterback. But then again, are they going to be able to get a rookie quarterback in there and then your everything's relying on your rookie quarterback? I don't know that that's necessarily what he would want either. So we'll have to wait and see. But definitely not the start they wanted at losing a home game. Those are ones that you feel like you got to win, and they kind of looked like they were out of it, right? You know, it was 27-9 at halftime, and it stayed like that till the fourth quarter. So Chiefs got it off to a great start. Went out, scored touchdowns offensively, and defense looked great. So that's really all they could ask for.
All right, in our transition to the NFC, we'll finish with the final AFC team playing in the afternoon games, which is my Miami Dolphins, traveling to the nation's capital to take on the Redskins. Most everyone that I've talked to, and we've looked at in our pool, I'd say 90% of people expected Miami to win this game. A lot of them expected to do it handily. The ever pessimistic or realistic person that I am, I expected the Dolphins to win. I did not expect them to blow anyone out, because I never do that. Because I told you what do I always say? I like to pick against my team, because then if they win, I'm like, all right, that's awesome. But if they lose, I'm like, I told you they were going to lose. Because that's my mentality when it comes to it. With the jaded way we've grown up with sports, outside of 2008 or that run that the Phillies have had, what great sports moments have we witnessed? Especially in terms of professional football.
Not many.
I mean, unless people want to say, well, the Eagles had
were good there.
Division championships and stuff, but the pinnacle is being the best. The Eagles have literally never been the best in your life. Well, ever. Sorry for that, but
no, they have been. They have been, just not the Super Bowl.
1960.
Yeah, so that counts.
The Dolphins have never been the best in my lifetime.
Right. In my lifetime,
and that's what I'm focused on. I love the Dolphins have 2 Super Bowls, but I wasn't born. I don't that really means nothing to me, except when you get into historical arguments.
Unless you're talking about teams that haven't been good recently, and just all they do is talk about their past. Not that anyone on our team. Not that any of our listeners.
I don't think that he's listening, because he can't figure out how to get to the audio feed. So you can talk trash on the Cowboys and my dad all you want. If
you said the team name. I was just referring.
I guess we'll find out if he's listening shortly.
I was just referring to teams in general.
See if he figured out how to find us on the audio feed.
But anyway,
the Dolphins won today, 17-10. It wasn't pretty. They scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. It was the
opposite of pretty.
The offense was awful. The defense
That's what worries me about the Dolphins. Defense is okay.
Kind of like the Wilson last week against Mifflin. They bent, but they didn't break. They gave up 1 touchdown, which was, I think, offensive pass interference.
And I was explaining it to someone else. Like, when you look at it, there was some contact there. And live, I thought, he kind of pushed, but they might have just gotten tripped up. So I can understand how watching it live, the ref may have been like, it was just, they were locked up, but the one guy just fell. But on the replay, you see, he clearly, the wide receiver shoved him down to the ground.
Yeah.
And the announcer goes, a good no call. And they go back to the studio on Red Zone, and he's like no, everyone else would. He's like, I think I'm in agreement with everyone else when I say, no, that should have been pass interference.
But anyways, I'm not going to dwell on that. Maybe if they lost, I would have been more upset about it. But Miami won. They had a great punt return for a touchdown by Jarvis Landry. The Redskins, 2 interceptions by Kirk Cousins. Robert Griffin, guy on the ticket that everyone was talking about, 3rd-string quarterback, not even dressed for this game. I wanted more from the Dolphins offense to be happy about the rest of the season. It's only week 1. I'm not going to freak out. No. A win is a win, and it was on the road, which you love to take. I'd love it to have been against an AFC opponent, but hey, you get a road win.
I appreciate it. Knocked off the Redskins.
Beat the Redskins.
Helps the Eagles.
That puts them in a hole for you. So, hey, I'll take the victory. And they just have to regroup. The Dolphins have an easy beginning schedule. They need to capitalize on that. Next week they go on the road again, but it's only to Jacksonville, who suffered a setback today. We'll talk about it in a few moments. And they got a big showdown in week 3, but they're hosting the Bills.
Right. So.
And then they have the Jets, the Titans, and Texans before finally playing in New England on a Thursday night at the end of October. So there's a lot of winnable games on the Dolphins' schedule early. It's good to get a win. I'll take it. And already shifting focus to Jacksonville. The Redskins, meanwhile, in week 2, they're going to host apparently the red-hot St. Louis Rams, who won in overtime today against the Seattle Seahawks, the 2-time defending NFC champions.
The Rams were the better team throughout the game, and Seattle came back and was able to tie it up. I'm guessing your dad was listening the way your phone was buzzing.
That would actually be from my uncle.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh.
He found the audio stream for sure, and he was listening to my talk about the Dolphins. And this is, I mean, I laugh at it, but it's completely true what he just texted to me. This is from my uncle in New England, Massachusetts, the Patriots fan. He says, must be something to expect your team to lose. I always expect my team to win, and they do. As much as I want to
be nice.
be offended by that, it's completely true.
Can't relate.
Like I can't relate about expecting my team to win because outside of the Phillies in 08, which was a surprise, I didn't expect them to actually do it.
Right.
I was never thinking it was going to happen.
Friend of the show and music guy Greg, I think he's paraphrased the Joker actually from the Dark Knight movie when he's like, I feel like the Phillies winning the World Series, this is before it happened, is kind of like the quote about a dog chasing a car, like not knowing what to do if it actually ever caught it. And he's like, we always talk about a Philadelphia championship. He's like, I don't really know what we would do if we actually won one. And then they did. This was on the way to Game 5, Part 2. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know either. And fortunately, we found out. But, to our listener, Rich in New England, you're right. There's nothing we can say.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Boston sports fan.
Yeah.
Like, there's been nothing better in the last 10, 12 years than being a Boston sports fan.
Yeah, I'm ready to go back to them not winning anything for 80-some years or whatever.
Anyways.
And even then, it wasn't because the Celtics were dominant.
Right, that's true. Back to the NFC West. The Seahawks went to St. Louis. The games in St. Louis over the last 4 or 5 years have been very interesting. Yeah. Seahawks have only won one time.
Well, and I think this is like the Rams team you thought you were picking last year. Like
You're right.
Incredible defense.
The defense looked incredible at times. They gave up 31 points. Now, one of that was a punt return for a touchdown, not on the defense.
And another one was a fumble return for a touchdown.
Right.
So you're talking 17 points.
Giving up 17 points. Generally speaking,
to an NFC, to
if
the
you're
Super Bowl,
giving up 14 to 17 points, I expect my team to win because I want my offense to score 17 or more. If I score 21, I feel like I should win that game. So. But the Seahawks defense, now I know they also gave up a punt return for a touchdown, but Seahawks defense giving up 27. Do you think they missed Cam Chancellor?
Be interesting.
Deion Bailey, his replacement, got burned.
If I'm Cam Chancellor, I'm saying I'm not coming down. I know we're not gonna get into the contract stuff. We rarely do, but if I'm Cam Chancellor,
you need me, so pay me. That's what you're getting at essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's got the upper hand. If they had gone out and
dominated,
and they got good play out of the safety position, that would have been. Then he'd be in a tough spot.
The interesting thing to me is the reports are that they're less than $1 million apart. So it's like get the deal done. But the second thing is he's supposedly holding out because he thinks he should be paid more because of his supreme leadership. Not being there for the team is not leadership.
Right.
And I think Rodney Harrison, who, one of the great free safeties, unfortunately having to play for the Patriots, so he gets a little knock in his resume there. But, he would know a thing or two about playing safety and being a leader on a great team. Like, you can't be like, I'm holding out because I'm a leader. Like, no, I'm sorry. That, especially with me, I know this is all opinion. A lot of people would say, you're doing your thing for the players, whatever. You can't be saying I'm holding out for my leadership skills. That's just kind of... Okay, right. It's a little hypocritical there.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is going to be interesting to see what happens there. But anyway, Seahawks got off to a loss there. The Rams a big win because that's a division win. That's
just huge.
That's a big win for the Rams.
Absolutely huge.
And Nick Foles looked pretty good. He made some passes. He missed some wide open guys, and where we're texting and we're like. He Nick Foles that
was
Foles.
That was Foles right there.
Or when he just the blindside. Now that wasn't necessarily his fault, but like he got crushed. I thought his arm was gonna get ripped off.
I thought he might have dislocated his shoulder.
But the Rams were able to pull it off somewhat. In Pete Carroll out thinking himself again on the fake onside or not fake, but the onside kick that didn't hit the ground, so it was allowed to be fair caught. Just Seahawks. I think they'll be fine, but I think it's going to be a more competitive division.
They started slow last year, did they not?
Yep.
They were like 2-3 or 5-4 or something. They were some odd mix of record.
They'll be okay, and I think the Rams' defense is really good. It might be the best defense they see for a while. So I think their offense will get clicking. Jimmy Graham looked good.
He got a touchdown for me, so I'm happy about that.
When we look at they're going to Green Bay next week, so.
Could we be looking at an 0-2 hold for the two-time defending NFC champions?
That would be crazy.
Well, can the Rams build on it is kind of a bigger question to me.
Yeah, you're right.
They get to go to Washington, so I mean it's not exactly it's a stumbling block.
They need to win.
They need to win that game if they want to take that step and be a playoff team. They need to win this next game.
Quick side note about that game: you and I both sent it to each other like pretty much the same time. That stadium was half empty today.
Oh, in St. Louis, yeah.
Not at the end of the game when people
they already know they're the LA Rams
right.
in the next 2 years.
there was no one there.
Yep. And this was early. This was like the middle of the second quarter.
Right. So people who were late getting there should be there.
Right.
And people who are leaving early didn't leave yet. There was just no one there. So,
yeah, it was kind of disappointing for
right.
sure. All right, couple other NFC games. Oh, there was another crossover game I forgot about. I don't have much to say about it. I had higher hopes for Jacksonville.
Yeah,
in the first half, they looked close, but ended up with only 9 points. Same issues.
They got into the red zone. They got inside the 10 a couple times and had to settle for field goals. Well, that's not going to be good enough, especially when you're not that good of a team.
So the Panthers get an ugly win, and a win they needed to kickstart their year, 20-9 over the Jaguars. The Panthers in Week 2 will be hosting the Texans, who, as we mentioned, suffered a loss to the Chiefs. So
that's a big one because Houston needs that win to avoid going 0-2, and Panthers have a chance to build and be 2-0. Which would be a really good start for them.
As I mentioned earlier, the Jaguars will stay at home and host the Dolphins.
Right.
In an incredible NFC North, at least historically, two of the better teams in all of football have been the Packers and the Bears. Green Bay traveled to Soldier Field today, and at first it looked like the Bears might be thinking upset. They were hanging on pretty good, sticking with Green Bay, who a lot of people think are one of the best teams in the NFC. They fought. I can't say they didn't fight. They fought hard all game. Packers just seemed to be the better team.
Right.
They end up winning this one 31-23.
The Bears made some mistakes that you can't make and then still beat the Packers or expect to still beat the Packers. That's pretty much what happened. Packers defense looked good at times.
They seem to be the same Packers defense we've always seen.
They'll make some big plays, but they're going to get burned too.
They have big plays, but then all of a sudden they'll go away and be like, "Where were you?"
And they play Seattle next week, and then they play Kansas City after that. So Green Bay has a tough first 3 games.
Yeah, we mentioned that when we did their preview. I still expect them to be the best team in the NFC
absolutely.
North, but they don't have an easy road to being the division champ again. Next week, Chicago will host Arizona,
which is not going to be
before traveling to Seattle. So it could be a rough first year for John Fox in Chicago.
Right.
All right, I think that was all the Thursday night game and all the 1 p.m. starts. So looking at some of the evening games that are going on right now, the Chargers have come back on the Lions. The Lions were up 21-3 in the second quarter. The Chargers have now scored 30 consecutive points to take the lead nearing the end of the game. It's 33-21.
Yeah, I want to say unbelievable, but it's not to me. Like, I think that is what the Lions are going to do. Like, people are like, they got Haloti Ngata. I think the run defense isn't going to drop off much. Originally I did, but the more I thought about it, I think that's something that they'll still be okay. But I think the Chargers are going to be really good, and I think they kind of got a little shell shocked, early in the second quarter when they're down 21-3, but then they were able to chip away, and I think Phillip Rivers is in for a big year. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, or you just talk to me about quarterbacks, which usually I don't really do with many other people other than you or like maybe my dad. I'm not a big Phillip Rivers guy. I just think he's trending in the right direction. I think now they have a true offensive coach who his system really kind of fits Phillip Rivers well out there. I think they're impotent. That they're going to make a run. I think I picked them as a wild card team.
I think you did,
because I have Denver. I think winning the division. We'll get to their game in just a second, but it looks like they go to San Diego
and then Cincinnati.
Oh, sorry, they are San Diego.
No, they go to No, they travel the next 2 weeks. The Chargers are on the road after starting,
which
the
is
season
tough when you're the West Coast team.
They go to Cincinnati and then to Minnesota,
right?
Before returning home.
Two tough games there. But even if Detroit scored.
Oh, Detroit's making it interesting. It's 33-28 now.
Right. So, the game's not quite over. But if they can if they win this one and can split those next two to be 2-1 with those 3 teams to start with, I think you would be pleased as a Chargers fan.
The Lions, meanwhile, depending on the outcome of this game against San Diego, they're down by 5 with about a minute to play.
Look at that
They
schedule.
have to travel to the Vikings before hosting the Broncos and then
they
going on the road to Seattle
and then they host
Arizona. So it could be a long year in Detroit as well.
Yeah, I'm not high on the Lions this year. I think they're good enough they'll be okay, but
we had them third,
we talked about this in our previews. What did they do to get better?
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, we said And look at the way
Calvin Johnson's health is going to be the biggest thing. And Sam
said
Bradford. Sam Bradford's big for another team, but Matthew Stafford is big for the Lions.
We said Bears worst. They played pretty good. It was at home. It was the first game of the year. I still expect Green Bay to be better, but we said Bears fourth, Lions third, Green Bay first. The only one we are unknown and we haven't seen the game yet is the Vikings.
Right.
So, I mean, if the Lions face that kind of a schedule, and we'll get to see them play the Vikings next week, but I really do believe it's Green Bay and everyone else, but I think Minnesota could end up being the best of those other three.
Yeah.
Now, the other team, the Chargers, we already mentioned you like the Chiefs, you like the Chargers. You know, we're both in agreement they're going to be both are pretty good. Are they going to be better than the team they've been chasing the last few years, the Broncos? Well, the Broncos, when we came down here, were in a little bit of a hole because Peyton Manning had just thrown a pick six.
Right. And I think, honestly, the Broncos are playing today the best of the three opponents of those three teams.
I would not disagree with you on that. I think, the Chargers beating the Lions and the Chiefs beating the Texans. Yeah, I would definitely say the Ravens are better than. I would take the Ravens over the Lions or the Texans for sure. And the Broncos are winning, so it's probably early to write them off. I can't say that Peyton Manning's looked great today.
No, he didn't. And the Ravens secondary isn't necessarily their strong point, but they were getting some pressure on him, things like that. I think the Broncos are going to be okay. They're not going to be the team that we've seen the last couple of years, where they've been able to, really kind of be rather dominant in the regular season. But again, I think the Ravens are going to be pretty good. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, but I think they're a playoff caliber team. I think they're going to be in a hunt for it, and they may be in the hunt for that division, especially if the Steelers can't shore up that secondary.
Baltimore's got a tough start to the season. Do you know, are they staying on the West Coast? Because they got Oakland next week.
They should. Harbaugh probably has connections out there somewhere, you would think. That they should stay out there.
Yeah, they're I mean, they haven't lost this game yet. It's only 19-13. There's 3 minutes to play. They're going to be getting the ball here because I believe the Broncos just kicked that field goal to get up 19-13.
Yeah.
So the Ravens are going to get the ball back with 3 minutes to play. Obviously, a touchdown can still win that game. Game's not over. But looking ahead for the Ravens, they play in Oakland next week before returning home for 3 consecutive.
No, they're at Pittsburgh.
No, I know. I meant 3 consecutive AFC North games.
Sorry. I thought you were going to say home for 3 consecutive.
3 consecutive AFC North games where they'll host Cincinnati, go to Pittsburgh, and then host Cleveland.
Okay.
So an interesting start for the Ravens. 2 on the road in the West Coast, and then 3 against division rivals.
Yeah.
But Baltimore hanging tough with Denver, still could come out with the win facing Oakland next week. Whereas the Broncos trying to hold on here. They'll have to go to apparently a red-hot Kansas City team next week.
Right, so it could be tough and then some early things, and then Detroit after that. But interesting to see how this game ends up. Don't write off the Ravens. We've seen them just a couple years ago, last-second win
against
in Denver. So, Peyton Manning obviously didn't light the world on fire today. I anticipate him being okay, and being solid at quarterback, even if he's not the Peyton Manning of old. He's gonna be a top 15 quarterback. You know what I mean? I would imagine. So I think you're gonna be okay there.
The Cardinals have extended their lead over the Saints, 31-19. That game being played in Arizona. There's only about a minute and a half to play. So unless Drew Brees can come up with some magic and score 13 points in the next 90 seconds, it looks like the Saints will drop to 0-1. The Cardinals improving to 1-0. That's huge for them with the way that St. Louis played today with San Francisco pending
and winning
later.
Those NFC games.
You got to win those division games, most important, but conference games right behind that. New Orleans does get kind of a reprieve the next week, or so you would think, with the way the Buccaneers are playing.
And in New Orleans,
yeah,
so
that's
a must-win. If they don't win that,
that's a bounce-back game.
If they don't win in that, I think you start rebuilding now.
Next week, we already mentioned the Cardinals have to travel to Chicago before hosting their first division game against San Francisco in Week 3.
Right. And then St. Louis, they host St. Louis after that.
All right, 2 blowouts in the late game. Cincinnati in Oakland. The Bengals have put up 33. It's 33-7. There's a lot of time left in that one, but obviously I don't expect the Raiders to score.
And the Raiders did just get on the board. They may put up a couple. They may score again here, but it's nothing. It's a good start to the Bengals. This is a game where, honestly, I'm not trying to give credit here to the Raiders, but more this is a game where Cincinnati kind of back and forth. You're always kind of wondering they could go out there and be in a tight game or lose or, just not be ready. No, they went out there. They handled business.
Yep.
After 3, they were up 33-0, and really halfway through the 4th, they were up 33-0. So nothing to really worry about there for the Bengals. Good start for them.
Looks like another long year for the Raiders, down 33-7 to the Bengals, and next week they got to host the Ravens. Cincinnati, on the other hand, returns home to play the Chargers. The final game, the last blowout, and a huge blowout, a game that was 21-0 after the first quarter and 35-7 at halftime. The Titans-Buccaneers, the two worst teams last year, first 2 picks in the NFL draft, both took
Back-to-back
quarterbacks.
Heisman winners.
Look like completely different people. Marcus Mariota, last I knew, had 4 touchdowns in the first half.
Looked like a Heisman winner.
He had as many touchdowns as any rookie quarterback in his first game, matching what Franz Harkington did in the entire game. Let's take a look at the stats and see if he's put up any more.
And he was firing bullets. Some people talk about his arm strength. He was firing the ball in there to the tight ends and the receivers. He looked good. Now, again, it was against the Buccaneers, but we even mentioned Buccaneers' defense wasn't the issue last year. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Wow. 13 of 16 for 209
and 4
touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Now, Jameis, he has 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions.
And
one of them
was returned
his
for a touchdown.
first pass in the NFL is a pick 6 by Gerald Sensabaugh.
A lot of people, fantasy people, were big on Doug Martin today, but they fell behind so early that
he got 52 yards, but no meaningful touches, and he's not going to hit 100. So that's a bust there.
Bishop Sankey, 74 yards and a touchdown.
It's obviously way too early for anyone to be too high on Mariota or too low on Jameis Winston.
What are you talking about? No way.
Although we said the Bucs have to go to New Orleans, that's a tough,
And this is a good start for Tennessee, especially if you look at Houston. Didn't look like world beaters today. The Colts didn't. Now, over the course of a 17-week season, it's going to play itself out. The Colts are going to be fine. They're going to win that division. But maybe Tennessee's the team that challenges for that second spot instead of Houston.
Hey, you get good play at quarterback, anything can happen.
And we talk about, what does Houston not have? Quarterback. What does Tennessee have? As of today, anyway, a quarterback. The quarterback situation is settled there. For better or worse, it's Mariota.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In Houston, like you said,
who knows?
They don't know. O'Brien doesn't even know.
It could be Hackenberg.
Might be, if he survives the year.
If he's actually worthy of a first-round pick.
Well, they may be able to get him in the second round.
Hey, there you go. The Titans have to capitalize on this easy cake schedule at the beginning of the year. They blowing out the Buccaneers here. They go on the road next week, but it's to Cleveland, who look hapless today. They need to win that game because
Marcus Mariota today looked like what the Browns wish Johnny Manziel was.
Oh, absolutely. Their next, really their next 5, 6, even 7 games, a lot tougher than their first 2. They have to host the Colts and the Bills, Dolphins, and Falcons before going on the road to Houston and New Orleans, and that gets you all the way through Week 9 for them. So if they want to have a jump and push for that division crown or definitely a wild card, they got to win next week in Cleveland.
Yeah, so we'll have to kind of wait and see how that plays out. But, again, Mariota looking like the better of the 2 situations right now. It's not as simple as just the quarterback, but definitely he capitalized on what he had around him today.
Sunday Night Football, the first official Sunday Night Football game of the year, is the Giants traveling to the Cowboys. NFC East showdown. Everyone expects big things from Dallas this year. Not so much from the Giants, but you can't ever underestimate a rival.
Right.
I'm going Cowboys here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close game or even a Giants victory. But I'm still going to go Dallas.
I just hope nobody looks good.
2-0.
Yeah,
right?
2-0.
2-0.
Yeah.
Or really, like 54-51 would be good too, because
no defense.
Yeah,
that'll be
or how about 107-90?
Oh, yeah,
720
rushing yards.
722 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns by Journey Brown. That was from a Pennsylvania high school game in western Pennsylvania. I believe it was the Meadsville Bulldogs playing the Du Bois area Beavers. And the scoreboard only went to 2 digits, so it looked like one team won 90-7. No, that would be they lost 107-90. How about scoring 90 and losing?
Right, yeah.
The
game took forever.
The losing team's quarterback threw for like 500 or 600 yards.
That's just.
Coming back from the Wilson game Friday night, which is a huge victory for them. The Bulldogs beat CD East 38-0. Following that on Twitter, what was going on was just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. The 2 Monday night games, your Eagles go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's a tough start.
It's a tough start.
Prime time, and we expect big things from the Falcons.
And you have a defensive coach that has been able to shut down the Eagles and Chip Kelly coming from Seattle. So you have some things there where, maybe they have the pieces, but somebody's like, don't forget though, like the system is only part of it. He also had good players in Seattle.
Yeah, that's very true.
In Atlanta's defense didn't. Now we've always thought you're going to see bumps, and it's hard to kind of plan for those. Matt Ryan and the offensive weapons are there if they can protect Matt Ryan. I hope they can't tomorrow. But in general, I think Atlanta's going to be better than they were last year. So yeah, definitely a tough game for the Eagles. I hope they can win it. These are the types of games, if you're the Eagles and you want to be productive this season, these are the types of games you have to win because, they went 10-6 last year, which is good enough to get you in the playoffs, but it didn't because of games like this where you lose and
games.
You should win.
Yep.
Yeah, a road game, a conference road game, this is a big win for the Eagles.
Primetime road conference
game.
On
the other hand, conference home game for Atlanta, maybe even a bigger game for them. Right.
Absolutely. I know you're going Eagles. You saw I went Falcons.
Right, yeah.
This was a toss-up for me. I really think the teams are going to be evenly matched. I expect big things from each team, pushing for division titles and at least wildcard spots for both of them.
I think the Eagles are going to be able to score. I'm hoping they can slow down Matt Ryan.
The last game, the West Coast game, is Minnesota at San Francisco.
An interesting game.
49ers lost a ton. They have been very strong the last few seasons. We'll see what they got there. We're high on the Vikings.
Expectations are sky high for the Vikings, which almost makes me think San Francisco is going to win the game.
Yeah, I know. It's a road
I picked
game
Minnesota,
to start,
but
prime time. We'll see what happens. But I'm gonna stick with Minnesota. I'm high on them, so I think I'm hoping that they pull it out. And nothing against the 49ers because Harbaugh's not there anymore, who kind of started rubbing me the wrong way over the last few seasons.
And what's his name? Navarro Bowman's back tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I'm always pulling for former Penn Staters, especially ones that
be cool.
Overcame injuries as gruesome as his were. Any shout-outs for you before we take off? I know I'm probably forgetting something, but again, we're not here next week for the Joe Mays J-Raff Show. We will be recording the Bulldog Hour to kind of hype up some stuff for the show. We might actually send out links to let you watch the Bulldog Hour live if you're interested in doing that. If not, you just want to hear us talk pro football, we'll be back in 2 weeks on Sunday, September 27th, talking NFL Week 3.
Yeah, so we'll have hopefully a clear picture of how things are coming out and not as much overreaction to Week 1.
All right, so thanks for joining us. That wraps up the 186th episode of the Joe Mays J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday evening at 6:30 for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Don't forget, you can download each episode of the show from the podcast section of the iTunes Store. We'll see you next time, and thanks again for listening.